I just watched Superman. Let's go ahead and review it. So this movie's getting some pretty good reviews. The audience seems to really like it. Critics seem to like it. This is a major W for DC to get people back on their side. And I never doubted James Gunn. Pretty much everything he's ever made, I've enjoyed. And I definitely enjoyed Superman. Now, I don't think it's as good as some people are saying. Some people are saying this is like a 9 or 10 out of 10 movie, which I do not think it is. There is definitely some problems in this movie. It is nowhere near perfect, but it's still a really good comic book movie. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk pros and cons, and then I will give you guys my rating out of 10. So my first pro is the cast. I think everyone does a really great job, especially Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, David Corenswet as Superman, and Lois Lane, Rachel Brosnahan playing Lois Lane. That trio right there was amazing in this movie. Like, everyone just brought their A game. Every scene that all three of those people were in was fantastic. Nicholas Hoult as the villain, I loved this Lex Luthor. He is just so menacing. You absolutely hate this dude. He does a lot of things that really make you dislike him, and that's what you need for a villain. I'm glad they didn't give him, sympathy or, try to get the audience on his side. Maybe he's a misunderstood villain. Like, no, this dude is straight up evil. Then we've got David Corenswet delivering a fantastic performance as Clark Kent and Superman, a very happy, joyful, hopeful Superman, which we haven't seen. Now, I loved Henry Cavill, but that was just something that was lacking with the writing in the movies he was in, is Superman was just never really happy. But with Corenswet's version, he is a super happy-go-lucky farm boy turned Superman, and I love that because that's how he is in the comics, the animated series and all that. So this felt like Superman right out of the comics, but in live action. Then Rachel Brosnahan, absolutely stunning. She delivers a great performance as Lois Lane. She, has a complicated relationship with Superman. It's not a perfect relationship. There's issues. They argue. And I love the Lois and Clark dynamic. It's not this perfect relationship. They argue a lot. There's a lot of problems. And, they got to work through that. Next, I would say the action was pretty good. There's some really cool flight scenes, some really cool battle scenes, especially between Superman and Ultraman. The cinematography was solid, and I would say the visuals were really good too, especially in, specific locations, like let's say the Daily Planet, Lex Luthor's HQ, the Fortress of Solitude. Like, everything looked really good, and the CGI looked more polished than it did in the trailers. Then I would say the story was pretty solid, but it was a little bit predictable, which I'll be talking about in my negatives. I also want to say the supporting cast was pretty good, but I wish they were fleshed out a little bit more, and I'm talking specifically about the Justice Gang and Metamorpho and the Daily Planet employees, because we really only get to spend time with Jimmy, Lois, and Clark, and that's pretty much it. Like, Perry takes a back seat, Lombard takes a back seat, and Cat Grant, I believe is her name, takes a back seat as well. We don't really get to learn much about them, and they don't really have a lot of lines. Same with the Justice Gang. Like, Hawk Girl doesn't really do a whole lot. We spend a lot of time with Mr. Terrific, and he's terrific. And Nathan Fillion crushes it as Guy Gardner, but we don't really get to learn too much about him, but he does get a decent amount of screen time. Some other villains don't get a ton to do either, but overall, I would say the balance between the cast members was good, but it could have been better. I thought the comedy was pretty good. I'm someone that typically likes James Gunn's humor. I think he overdoes it just slightly, but most of the stuff I actually did chuckle at. Then I would say Ma and Pa Kent were really, really good in this movie. They were in it sparingly, but all the scenes they were in were really heartfelt, emotional moments. I almost got teary-eyed at one point. And I thought they were perfectly cast. Like, they feel like the most humble, just nice farm folk. And I just really liked them on the screen. I thought they worked really well with David Corenswet, and I can't wait to see more of them in a future Superman or DCU project. I also want to shout out the costume design in this movie. I really like this DCU Superman costume. I think it looks great. At first, I was a little bit of a hater of it. I was like, I don't know about this, but after watching the movie, I do think it looks really good in live action, and then all of the other costumes look great too. I also want to shout out Krypto. I was honestly surprised that James Gunn was going to include Krypto in the first Superman movie, but I really thought the dynamic worked. And, James Gunn is a master of pairing, characters with animal characters, and, he did it again with this movie. Superman and Krypto have a really great dynamic. All right, now on to some of my negatives. Now, the first one, I'm going to say some of the sound design. Like, there's some scenes where you just don't really feel the impact of certain things. Like, for example, a giant monster that we've seen in the trailer. It's like stomping and stuff, and you don't really feel the weight of that character, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Also, some of the punches and flight scenes, I felt like the sound design could have been a little bit better. I also think some characters needed more fleshing out, like I was saying earlier, like the Justice Gang, the Daily Planet, reporters, and some of the side villains. That would have made me care about them a lot more, which leads into a different negative that I have, which is the runtime, because I think the runtime is just a little bit too short. Just over 2 hours for the first movie in the DCU where we're introducing all these characters and all that. I think we needed maybe like 20 more minutes. I think that would have really helped the movie. We get to spend a little bit more time with these characters, flesh them out, really let some scenes breathe, because this movie is really fast-paced because of that 2 hours and 9 minutes runtime. It's like cut, different location, this is happening, okay, now we're here, impactful scene, then there's a joke, and then a cut. Like, I think the movie just needed to breathe a little bit better and take its time. Then I would say we needed a little bit more Clark Kent scenes, because a lot of the movie is Superman. We do get some really good Clark Kent scenes, don't get me wrong, but I think a few more of those scenes, maybe another scene with Ma and Pa Kent, a few more scenes with Lois Lane, would have really helped the movie. But they can always improve on that, and maybe Superman 2 we get more Clark Kent, who knows. I think there was also just a little bit too much humor, like not enough for me to have like a big complaint, but I did notice they were really overdoing it a little bit. Like, for example, there's a scene where Superman and Krypto are in like a lab, and then, it's kind of a serious moment, and then Krypto starts jumping on him, and I'm like, I think we could have just cut that and just kept it more serious. More high stakes, but we had to include a little, comedic bit, which I don't think was needed. I also think some of the visuals weren't that great. Like, some of the flight scenes where the camera is like flying around like this, it's a little disorienting. And I would prefer the camera to actually focus on what's happening and not be like super dynamic and in the air. Because honestly, when I saw the trailers, I thought that was like the T-spheres, or maybe a Luthor core sphere or a camera or something recording the battle. And then I thought that would make more sense with the camera moving around following Superman. But no, that was just the way they chose to shoot that scene, which I didn't really like. It was, like I said, a little disorienting. It made some of the CGI look a little wonky. Another negative I have is the story was a little bit predictable. Especially the Ultraman reveal. I thought that was extremely obvious. But I wish it was something, surprising, but it was just very, very obvious. And I was like, okay, it's still cool, but like, I think they could have done that a little bit better. And I also think Ultraman should have been in the movie a little bit more as one of like the main villains, because he kind of pops up near the beginning, and then you don't really see any conflict between Superman and him until like the end. But I think they should have used him a bit more, or had him do some more menacing stuff, because in the middle of the movie, he's really just like Lex's bodyguard, and he doesn't really, meet up with Superman a whole lot. So really just like the beginning and the end, and that was it. But man, the fight scene between Superman and Ultraman was really, really badass. So guys, I do think this is a really good start for the DCU. I think this is really going to win audiences over back to the DC brand, because, when you say DC, everyone thinks, oh, washed up, nobody really cares about DC anymore. But I think this is a really good step in the right direction. I think James Gunn has delivered a good comic book movie that will get people back to DC. Superman's box office performance is pretty solid right now, and I hope that word of mouth spreads, and that, people go see this movie, give it a chance. Hopefully they end up liking it and become DC fans, and then because I want to see the DCU thrive, I want to see a proper competing studio for Marvel so that they can push each other to make great product for us fans. So yeah, let's move on to my rating out of 10. I am going to give James Gunn's Superman a 7.5 out of 10. I think it's almost at the great point, which I think is an 8 and above. But right now, I just think it's really good. Hence the 7.5 out of 10. I think it's a really solid comic book movie, but I don't think it's in like the upper echelon of like amazing comic book films. I definitely think Guardians of the Galaxy 1, 2, and 3 are better than this Superman movie. But this is a great DC film. I think it's a great Superman film, probably my favorite Superman film. And yeah, that's my thoughts about the movie. Let me know down below in the comments what you thought about it. And what would you rate it out of 10?